Stewart. Um, Greetings from the far west coast of Ireland, where the wind is high, the seas are crashing on the rocks, and there's nothing
Wow.
between me and North America but wild and wavy Atlantic. And that's where you're heading. So tell me what's about to happen.
Okay, so this ship behind me is called Oosterschelde. It's a Dutch ship. I'll give you a little tour of it in a second. She's about to start a 2-year voyage around the world following the journey of Charles Darwin. It's a 2-year voyage setting out literally on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, and returns in July 2025.
Fantastic. Now, having from boyhood envied Charles Darwin the opportunity he had when he was only 22 of sailing around the world, and that was not quite 200 years ago.
Yep.
Your expedition is called DARWIN200. Just outline briefly what you're hoping to achieve 200 years after Darwin did his big voyage.
Yep, so you're absolutely right. Darwin left from here. This town here behind me, Plymouth in England, 200 years ago. His ship, or 2 centuries ago rather, the Beagle was anchored over there at a place called Barn Pool. As you say, it's not about the 200th anniversary. This isn't the 200th anniversary yet. The reason why the project is called 200 is because our first goal is to train and empower the world's top 200 young conservationists, one from each of 200 countries and states around the world. These young people are called Darwin Leaders. They're not sailing on the ship, they're coming to the ship in the ports that Charles Darwin made landfall, so the land. They're basically doing a training program with amazing conservation projects to learn the skills they need to help save the world of tomorrow. A really important point to emphasize is these young people are not normal people. They are extraordinary. We're selecting them on one criteria alone: what they've done to change the world. Many of them have planted thousands of trees or set up projects as teenagers to save species. So these are incredible people born with that flame inside of them, that burning flame to change the world. So to answer your question, to explain what they do, they come to the ship where Darwin made landfall, and they use the ship as a floating laboratory/media platform. We partner them with a conservation group in each of those ports, and they have to develop a project around an animal or plant, ideally that Charles Darwin studied. They've got to do 3 things. The first is they've got to look at that animal or plant that Charles Darwin studied, and embedded in the team of local conservationists, they have to work out what's happened to it over the last 200 years. Is the population the same? Is it increased or has it decreased? And obviously in most cases, almost all cases, it will dramatically decrease. They have to look at the reasons behind that change, what's caused that change, the factors and the reasons, and understand what's happened. They have to make short film, short photo essay, and short written report. Their second objective, they have to work with the conservation partners and look at the current conservation work, what's currently being done to safeguard that animal plant. And again, evaluate if it's enough. Is it working, basically? And again, a short film, a short photo essay, and a short written report. Then last but not least, and this is the most important bit, they have to use their brains, get out there and do research and work new strategies, develop new ideas, do interviews, do research, do investigations, and work out what more could be done. And again, make a short film, a short photo essay, a short written report. The objective of all this is to give those incredible young conservationists, these drivers of change in the world of tomorrow, some real experience, some new skills, some new practical knowledge out in the field that they'll take back to their home countries and hopefully use for the next 50 years or more to change the world of tomorrow. That's why it's called DARWIN200. We're making 200 Darwin leaders, 2 exceptional young people, 200 exceptional young people that we're training to change the world of tomorrow.
So not short an ambition then.
No, that's actually only one part of the project.
I'm sure. And tell our viewers the website if they want to find out more.
Sure. Okay, sure, fine. It's www.darwin200.com if you'd like to read more.
200 as a number.
Yep, 200 is the number. Yeah. We're doing 100 weekly events, one every week for 100 weeks, so for 2 years as the ship goes around the world, with competitions, with activities, with Darwin-inspired experiments, with prizes. We've got a whole range, a rainbow of activities and content that were beaming live to schools right the way around the world for 2 years. And anyone and everyone can be part of that if they'd like to be. It's all completely free.
I guess the bit the non-specialist remembers about Darwin's voyage was that he got to the Galapagos and observed the speciation in different species of finches and land tortoises. But Darwin also called into Africa. I read about his observations of rhino, and it wasn't even clear how many species of rhino he was seeing because it was so early in our understanding of African megafauna. So are you calling into Africa on your way to South America and the Galapagos?
So on the return of the Beagle, as it was returning back to Europe after it crossed the Indian Ocean, it touched in at South Africa, at Cape Town. That was the only location in Africa that he actually went to. We absolutely are going there. We're going to every major port that Charles Darwin visited, certainly including Cape Town, which and South Africa, which, as I'm sure as you know, is one of the great floral kingdoms of the world. Of course, amazing animals as well, but also with plants. It has some of the most incredible rates of endemism anywhere on the planet. So yes, absolutely, to answer your question, we couldn't possibly miss South Africa.
And I've just read that the countries of South America that share the Amazon basin have got together to collaborate to ensure that the Amazon basin survives. How will you be able to feed into that top-level government-led initiative from the ground?
Actually, we're directly contributing to reforestation in South America. Darwin didn't actually go to the Amazon, but spent a lot of time in the Atlantic rainforest, the rainforest that extended down the seaboard. As I'm sure you know,
past tense, sadly.
Yeah, past tense. 70 to 80% has been destroyed, and the remaining bits. Oh, sorry, bit of a motorbike here. The remaining 70 to 80%. Sorry, tell you, I'll walk down the quay a little bit. The remaining 70-80% or so of that Atlantic rainforest, 70-80% have been destroyed. The remaining bits are very, very, very fragmented. And what we're doing is doing an amazing project up near Brazil, up near Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and planting $10,000 of trees to help restore a little bit of the forest that Darwin fell in love with and absolutely adored. We're actually also doing a major biodiversity transect there as well. We're looking at the biodiversity of primary forest, then secondary forest, then severely degraded, deforested areas, and then on the other side, successive levels of reforested habitat, like 10 years reforested, 20 years, 30 years, and so forth. So we hope to see a really interesting curve of the decline of biodiversity as deforestation takes place, but hopefully also the increases that shows the importance of replanting trees. So we're actively planting several thousand trees as when we're out there and to help rebuild some of those forests.
But I imagine most of the 2 years of the voyage will be spent at sea. As you take us on board, which you promised to do, tell me about the marine side of the voyage.
Yeah. So of our voyage, we're doing roughly about a year at sea and a year at land. So we're going to 32 ports around the world. Each port we've got between 1 and 3 weeks in to do different projects and activities and training those Darwin leaders, those incredible young people. Darwin's voyage, by the way, was 5 years. The reason why it was so much longer is it was actually a survey mission. Many people incorrectly think it was Darwin's great journey around the world. It was all about him, but it absolutely wasn't. He was pretty much incidental, joining at the very last minute, really, as a companion primarily for Captain Fitzroy. It wasn't about him at all. It was a survey voyage, surveying the coast of South America. And Captain Fitzroy went up north and south multiple times on both coasts of South America to survey it. Darwin then had the opportunity to explore inland and organize several expeditions. So sorry, to answer your question, what we're doing then at sea during the year, we've got 4 research projects on land and 4 at sea. The sea ones, every single day throughout the 2-year voyage, we're going to be measuring air temperatures and sea temperatures, and every week taking a photo. And all of that data goes up via Iridium satellite to our website to be displayed on a live map. We want to contrast this against the wealth of historical records, just to verify and see how the temperatures of the air and the sea are relating. We've got a team of 2 researchers on the ship doing a megafauna survey. They're actually looking for several things. They're looking for for cetaceans, whales, dolphins, and porpoises. They're also looking for pinnipeds, seals, and sea lions, and so forth. They're doing a systematic seabird survey, particularly focusing on endangered species, of course, particularly albatrosses down in the Southern Ocean as well, and also other megafauna like whale sharks and basking sharks and so forth. So that's the second research project. The third is that as the ship goes around the world, we're trawling, hopefully every day, but certainly on a very regular basis, but providing conditions allow, the goal is every day. We're trawling for microplastics to actually look at the concentrations of microplastics in the world's oceans. We all hear about those, rafts of plastic in the middle of the gyres of the great oceans of the world, but we want to quantify it and actually find out how big a threat that is and what's going on with it. So we're going to survey and search for those microplastics actually out when we get around the world. Then we've also got 4 projects on land, which is the reforestation project and the biodiversity transects, which should be quite interesting. We're also looking at pollution solutions and looking at how we can solve some of the world's big pollution issues. Oh, sorry, the 4th project, I think I skipped one by accident. The 4th project that we're doing at sea is ballooning spiders. Charles Darwin actually documented spiders that release threads behind their abdomens, and they use these to fly up into the atmosphere. This happens all the time. And Darwin actually found them landing down in the middle of the Atlantic. He documented this on the Beagle, and they've been relatively little studied in the oceans. So, because most of them, of course, 99.999% come down and perish and die in the sea, but some don't, and that was the case with the lucky few that landed on the Beagle during Darwin's journey. We're actually installing some equipment up in the rigging of the ship, and we're going to be looking for those ballooning spiders as the ship goes around the world. So it should be quite exciting in that regard.
That's a fascinating project. Now, you did promise to take us on board. Do we have time for you to? I saw a still photograph of the laboratory. I'd like you to quickly dive into the lab to show us what you've got.
Oh, absolutely. I hope the signal will bear up down under the deck. It's a metal hull. We'll just have to try it. So I'll walk you along the outside first, then we'll go on board. So here's the bow. So it's a 50-meter long ship. It's roughly 100 years old. It's a Dutch vessel called Oosterschelde. She's already been around the world twice on past voyages. She's a gaff rig schooner, which means she has really large sails up here, up in the rigging. The 24 people that crew her, plus the professional crew, there's about 35 roughly in total. They have to, of course, set the sails, hoist the sails up, bring them down, and so forth. So here's some of the sails here. You can see that they used just a few hours ago coming into Plymouth. You've got to remember, this is a luxury ship. Darwin's vessel, the Beagle, was half the length of this. Say this has got about 35 people at sea. Darwin's ship, the Beagle, had over 150 and was roughly just a bit over half the length of this. So you can imagine how absolutely crammed in the Beagle was when Darwin went aboard. Here's the wheelhouse where the ship is steered, and the stern, obviously. Yeah, and you can see a beautiful Dutch flag at the back because it's a Dutch vessel. I'll absolutely take you on. I have no idea if the signal is going to work as we go downstairs. So if it doesn't,
okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me first of all wish you bon voyage. Are you going to be getting up into the rigging?
I'm sorry?
Will you be climbing it up into the rigging?
Of course, absolutely. We have to for some of the experiments. The ballooning spider equipment is up in the rigging. So we absolutely have to in order to monitor that and take regular, return the equipment on a regular basis. So yeah, absolutely, we have to.
Sometime during this 2-year voyage, I need to do that. I want to climb the rigging and find a ballooning spider in the ocean somewhere.
I very much hope you will. And members of the public can be part of this. We've still got quite a few places, particularly with South America. So if you'd like to sail on the ship, members of the public can. They have to go to www.DARWIN200.com. So if people would like to, they absolutely can. And it should be a really great adventure, really amazing adventure.
that will help fund the expedition, will it?
That's right. Yes.
That's fantastic. What an opportunity for any naturalist with a few bob in his pocket or her pocket to come and take part in this expedition. Well, look, I hope the wind drops by next Tuesday, because here it's literally blowing a gale, and the Atlantic doesn't look very friendly. But I hope you set off into calm waters, have a wonderful voyage, and if you can take us down into the laboratory, absolutely, let's try it. But if you get cut off, we have said our farewells.
Do you know what? That is a very, very sensible idea. That's a very good idea. The next challenge is not dropping the phone as I jump on board. So you'll have to just bear with me just while I jump on board. Okay.
That's funny. I thought there'd be a gangplank or something traditional.
Well, there is actually, but in the evenings they take it down just so that there isn't any, any issues with people coming on the ship. So okay, well, we'll start up here, then I'll go down. So we'll have a little walk across. The ship has three main masts, sorry. And as mentioned, it's gaffed rigs, so you can see those huge gaff sails they hoist up there. And we'll try going down if the signal will hold. Hello. So
if it doesn't hold, it's a very exciting way to get cut off.
That is very true. That is very, very true. Oh, it might actually be being dinner served. Hang on, let's have a look. Oh no. So so this is where
we're just losing the signal a bit, just as we're seeing the microscopes.
Amazingly, that actually works.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, big dinner, so I hope you don't mind. I had to be a little bit brief down there. I didn't want to disturb them. But
no, that's fine. The one thing that surprised me, now that we've still got contact, is that the tables didn't have a rim on the edge. So are your specimens going to be rolling around and off the table because of the
special waters and special plates that stick to the tables? Yeah, but of course they won't serve. They will serve in a very controlled way when it's rough, and a lot of times you have to really hold on. But the plates stick to the tables, so it's controlled in that way. There's rails as well to make sure that if you're walking, you don't slip and fall and so forth.
Yeah, the woodwork is beautiful. And if it's a 100-year-old vessel, it was before the Forest Stewardship Council. So,
yes, yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, it's a beautiful ship. It's a steel hull. It's a steel hull vessel, so it's metal, which actually is a significant difference because in this day and age, it's very hard to take wooden hulled ships, for example, to biosensitive areas like the Galapagos. So a metal hull is easier. We have to take her out twice during the voyage and basically clean her hull, so there is no biosecurity issues when we head over to the Galapagos.
Right. So to prevent organisms clinging on and then being distributed to other places.
That's exactly right.
Very important concept.
That's one of the vectors that a lot of invasive species transmit between the oceans of the world, like, for example, lionfish. It's one of the many theories is that they transmitted with the bilge water of big ships across to the Caribbean. So that's one of the many theories.
Well, I look forward to hearing how well you've swabbed the decks and emptied the bilge water without distributing alien species.
Thank you.
Stuart, I know that this is a very busy time just before you go, so I'm grateful for the opportunity to have this chat. And as I say, I and I'm sure everyone else watching wishes you the best of luck, and the lucky few might actually get to join you somewhere around the world. So
absolutely, anyone in the public can. There's still a few places, so if anyone wants to join, you absolutely can. So we really hope to see you aboard, and please follow the journey. We've got so much going on. We've got weekly lectures, competitions, activities. We've got projects for 30 children to come and meet the ship in the Galapagos and study out in Darwin's footsteps. We've got so many different projects and activities. So we'd love you to be a part of that.
That phrase you use about the world's most exciting classroom you've just explained why. I mean, it really is an exciting place to learn.
We built a Darwin laboratory, and we're going to be beaming from that every single week as the ship goes around the world. We're recreating a Darwin-inspired experiment with an activity sheet every single week as the ship goes around the world. We've got prizes. We've got $200 worth of prizes every week for those that take part in the competition, in the experiment and other competitions as well. We've got a whole range of different promotional activities. We've got lectures, Q&A sessions with conservationists. We've got inspired thinking about what each and every one of us can do to help make the world a better place. The whole point of this project is to showcase that we all matter, that every single person on the planet can help contribute to a brighter future. And that's the entire point of all of this activity and this effort.
And with modern communications, that's possible in a way that Darwin could not have even dreamed about.
Oh, absolutely.
And I know that you have EcoFlix on board, so a lot of this will be streaming on the new TV and streaming platform, EcoFlix.
Yes. That's right. And just consider, for example, how the differences from today to 200 years ago. I mean, the majority of the habitats of the world, the deep oceans of the world, Darwin knew nothing about because he couldn't know anything about. The discoveries that we've made in the last 200 years are astonishing. I'm not just talking from a technological point of view. I'm just talking in a natural history point of view. The mountain ranges of the world weren't fully charted. The tepuis in Venezuela weren't even discovered, many of them by that point. So yeah, the knowledge that we can glean that Darwin couldn't is absolutely extraordinary. And so yeah, that's a very, very, very interesting part. But equally the change. I mean, consider how much the world has changed in the last 200 years. The impact that we've had, the forests that existed, like the Atlantic rainforest, which at the time people thought were impenetrable, would never be destroyed, were destroyed within a few decades. So yeah, all of those factors are different points we're going to be discussing and considering and exploring through our research projects as we sail around the world.
Well, we have demonstrated in those 200 years that when we set our minds to it and our hands to it, we can wreak a lot of havoc. And that your Darwin 200 leaders have to reverse that and set their minds and hands to repairing some of the damage. So if anyone is in reach of Plymouth on Tuesday, what time are you hoping to leave and where will they find you?
We actually know very specifically because we're in Sutton Harbour in Plymouth. There's a dock that opens on the high tide. So we know pretty precisely it opens at 8 o'clock. And we basically have to leave at that time. So if anyone is around and would like to see the ship leave at 8 o'clock on Tuesday, please come down. It should be quite a sight seeing the ships sail out. Remember, in Darwin's wake, following the journey of the Beagle. So it'll be a wonderful tribute to this great naturalist and his amazing adventures and journeys.
So I hope people, although at that time he was a young man and didn't have the big bushy beard he became known as, I think people should turn up to wave goodbye wearing big bushy Darwin beards.
That's an excellent idea. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that a lot of people forget. They have an image of Darwin as an old man with a beard, which of course he was later in life. But when he came on the Beagle, well, first of all, it's a very interesting story. Many people don't realize this. He had dropped out of university, the first university he went to, Edinburgh. He went to do medicine there. He did eventually graduate from Cambridge, but his father was disappointed with him. His father thought he was an embarrassment to the family, as is so often the case with these great figures in history, like Churchill as well, like Winston Churchill. Exactly the same story. But of course, you know, he rises from this situation where everyone around him, honestly thought he was a failure. But of course, then during this journey, he transforms, he evolves into the world's greatest naturalist, and in many ways, greatest scientist. The voyage of the Beagle has been described as the most important journey in science. And the theory of evolution, which eventuated from it, has been described as the greatest single thought in the history of human thinking. It changed everything, with still ramifications to this day. So it's an incredible accomplishment of what obviously he eventually undertook as a result of this groundbreaking voyage. And
I have to just jump in there because you're setting off this year, which is the Alfred Russel Wallace bicentenary. So 200 years after the birth of Alfred Russel Wallace, who co-authored the paper that described the evolution of species by natural selection, And you're doing a Darwin 200. Don't forget Wallace. This, in fact, is my Wallace tribute beard that I'm wearing
Oh,
for the Wallace bicentenary.
absolutely. I actually live and grew up in the town where Wallace spent the last decades of his life, and eventually, sadly, passed away. And he was buried just a couple of kilometers from my school. I absolutely adore Wallace as well. He, of course, absolutely deserves credit, just like Darwin, for developing these ideas. And it is an amazing, amazing story of how they both independently came up with the theory of evolution. Yeah, both were extraordinary men.
So we must wrap it up here, but I hope anyone listening to this conversation is stimulated to look up Darwin and his ideas, Wallace and his ideas, and definitely DARWIN200.com to find out what you're doing. Thank you so much, Stewart. Have a great trip.
Absolute pleasure. And I'll end on a shot of the ship. It was absolutely lovely speaking tonight, and yeah, I hope you enjoy having a look at her.
Beautiful ship. Thank you.